Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about positioning in CS2. The first thing I'm going to talk about is going to be common angles. So what are common angles? Common angles will be the places that most people will play and the places that are most comfortable to play, but they're not always the most effective. So a common angle would be this corner here under powers. A lot of people will play here and it will feel like it's an effective angle, and a lot of the time it can be, unless the enemies check you, but most of the time the enemies are going to check you. And even if you play something like this, which is a little bit more to the side, it will still count as a common angle, because it still has the disadvantages that common angles have. So the disadvantages of common angles are they get checked a lot and they get utility used against them. So an example can also be city. If you play from city, you can get smoked off, you can get flashed off, people are going to most likely check you and they will use your utility against you. So the good things about common angles are that sometimes they're the most effective and almost all the time they're the most comfortable to play on. But the disadvantages are that people always check you and people always use utility against you. The next type of angles is the off angles. So an off angle would be an angle that people will usually not expect, and it will be a place that the enemy most likely will not pre-aim. So let's say they're coming out of a ramp, they'll probably check an angle like this, and then they'll pick like this towards city. If you play in the middle of these two, so like here, that is going to be an off angle. So the off angle is basically playing in between two places that your enemy is going to pre-aim. So if your enemy is pre-aiming the right of triple and then pre-aiming city, that also means that if you play here, you are not on an off angle technically. Yeah, it looks like an off angle, but when you actually think about it, the enemy will come out picking like this, and then he'll pick like this. So his crosshair will be on your head, so it's not an off angle, because he's pre-aiming you. So you have to think about this, you have to be between the two positions, you cannot be on the line of one position, you have to be between two positions that the enemy is going to pre-aim. And another thing that you have to be careful of when using off angles is what you are exposed to. So let's say this can be an off angle because the enemy is not going to pre-aim it, but you are also exposed to powers, so you can get killed from two directions now. So unless you have somebody covering powers for you, you cannot play that angle. Another disadvantage of off angles is that, again, you get used, utility will get used against you, but in a different way, where flashes will always blind you. So if you're just playing out here in the open, and the enemy flashes above ramp, it will be really hard to dodge that flash, and you cannot really turn around, or if you get flashed, you can't really easily hide behind something. You have to move to the side, and if the enemy peeks instantly after the flash, you will either take a lot of damage or instantly be dead. Now here are some things to make both off angles and common angles more effective. So if you're playing on a common angle, you can play a little bit more to the side, like this, and you can move around a bit. So you can move around like this, so the enemy doesn't exactly pick you with the perfect crosshair placement, because if you're on an angle like there, or like here, they can pick you with perfect crosshair placement, but if you're moving around, that will be more difficult for the enemy to do, because if they pre-aim that spot and you're a bit to the side, or you're even moving exactly when they pick, they have to adjust their crosshair, and you don't really have to adjust your crosshair too much if you have the good crosshair placement. And that brings me on to the next point, which is make sure to have your crosshair on the right place. So even if you're holding an angle like this, you shouldn't hold like this or something. Or if you're holding a ramp from, let's say here, you cannot hold like this, because you will not be able to react that quickly. You will not be able to shoot at the enemy instantly and hit them like this. You have to have a bit of a distance between the wall and your crosshair, so you have time to react. So let's say this can feel like a comfortable position of your crosshair, where you feel like you're going to react if the enemy peeks, so keep your crosshair here. If you feel like that's too far and you can react more quickly, you can keep it more to the right, more closer to the wall. And that's something you get with experience. You find out how you can react and where your crosshair needs to be for you to react. The next thing is, if you see an angle that allows you to hide a part of your body, you should use that. So let's say here on default, instead of playing like this, you can play behind like this. And this will hide all of your body and it will show only your head. So it will be more difficult for the enemy to hit you and to kill you. Another example of this is here on ticket. You can play here and this is not going to hide all of your body, but it's going to pretty much hide half of your body and it's going to show your head. So the enemy can see half of your body and most of your head. But that is still helping you because he can still make a shot to go through the box and to do less damage, and maybe he'll completely miss some shots because he's trying to shoot only at the part of you that's showing, and he shoots more to the side and he misses it. The next thing is to be creative with your positioning. So as an example, you can find an angle like this, which can allow you to hold city if somebody is covering jungle for you, if you're in a T-side after plant, and you stand here, somebody has to hold either city or jungle for you. And you can hold the other thing. So if you have somebody, let's say here, holding jungle or something like this, then you can play here and hold city. And it's going to be an effective angle. It's something like an off, or it is basically an off angle, but this one here in specific is a bit more different because you cannot really get flashed and you can get more than one kill, because after you kill this person you can move out to this side and you cannot really get traded that quickly. Another example of a position that is kind of creative is on top of default like this, if you're on city side and you just hold powers like this, and in this situation you should have a teammate who is covering city, who is covering ramp for you, maybe from city with an AWP or anything like this, just covering ramp for you so you don't get shot from there, because you're only going to be able to watch powers from that position, and it's going to be a bit difficult to deal with people coming out of ramp from there. Another position like this can be on top of triple. So if you just jump up on top of triple, you can hold city, or you can even hold some other angle if city is covered off for you by a teammate. And again, this is going to be most effective in after plants, because that's when you are going to need to hold positions like city or jungle or con or anything like that. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is going to be how to improve your positioning. One of the best ways for that will be to watch demos from pro players and specifically look out for two things: where they're standing and where their crosshair is. So let's say you're watching a Rob's demo on Mirage and he is on city side right now. That means he will be the con player, and you're looking at the round and he's just standing here and holding like this. You have to pay attention to that he is standing right here behind this box and he is looking there. That means he is waiting for a person to peek inside of con. And that will be because the terrorists on a T-side default usually like to take con. So he is going to be on an angle where he can get the kill on an enemy who is peeking and is not exactly being careful. Or even if he is being careful, Rops is confident that he will get the kill. Another thing that you might see is, let's say you're watching some A player and he plays right here, watching powers like this. Pay attention to that. He's standing here, not here, so he is on a bit more of a off angle where the enemy will not exactly pre-aim it. He's moving left and right, so it will be more difficult for the enemy to hit him. And his crosshair is here, not next to the wall, so he can have time to react to the enemy. And in the same time, also, his teammate is covering off ramp for him, because he can easily get killed from a ramp if he is just playing here alone. Another thing you can do is watch your own demos and ask yourself questions like, if an enemy peeked, would I get a kill? So let's say you're holding con like this, and nobody peeks in the demo, but you still ask yourself the question, if an enemy peeked, would I get the kill? The answer to that question in this situation will probably be no. The reason for that is your crosshair is too close to the wall, and if an enemy just swings, you're probably going to die. Another question that you can ask yourself is, if the enemy flashed, what would I do? So let's say you play here, and you get flashed. Or even if you don't get flashed in the demo, think about what you would have done if that happened. Would you go to the left? That would be a bad decision because you're going to overexpose yourself. Would you go forward? That would probably be the best possible decision because you can still get killed from powers, but you will not be exposed to ramp. So think about things like this. Where would you go if you get flashed off? Or what can you do if somebody mollies you? Let's say if you're staying here, you have to keep in mind that you always have to have a smoke, because if they molly you, you have no other way of really countering that than just having a smoke, because if you don't have a smoke, then you are forced to take a fight that is going to be uncomfortable and the enemy is going to be ready for it. So that's important. Think about the utility that the enemy is going to use and what you would do if the enemy really used that utility. Another thing you can think about is, if I got a kill, what would I do next? So let's say you're playing here, and if somebody peeks and you get a kill, what do you do next? Do you move towards Thunder Powers? Do you try to peek after that? Do you try to stay default and watch powers to be ready for a trade from powers? You have to figure out things like this, because repositioning after a kill is going to be very important, because when you kill someone, you have to remember that the next person will know where you are. And when they know where you are, it's an easier duel for them to win. So you have to change your position at least a little bit. Now the last thing is going to be just me giving you a few quick tips that you can use to improve your positioning. So let's say in a round you have a worse weapon. Let's say if you're on city side, you can't really buy a Mark 10, so let's use the MP7 because it's a thing you can buy on city side. When you have an MP7, that's an SMG, so it's generally not going to be very effective on long range duels, so you would not like to play city. You would like to play something like Underpowers, or you would like to play a setup with your teammate where if he also has an SMG, he can hold an angle like this, and you can hold an angle like this, just holding powers and being ready to kill somebody if they peek. Another thing to consider is what weapons your enemies have. So if your enemies have Glocks as an example, then you would like to play more long range duels like from city. Even if you have something like an MP7 or an MP9, you would still like to play something which is a bit more long range like triple. The reason for that is the Glock is not going to be effective from long range, and also from long range you can more easily get one kill and make sure you survive. So you can play around the angle like this, and to take a lot of time for the enemies to come at you and to overrun you. So it's almost impossible for them to rush you with 5 people if you're playing here. But if you play here against Glocks, it's easy for them to just rush you with 5 Glocks in the same time and kill you. Another important thing is to get crossfires with your teammates. So if you're playing here, then your teammate has to think about how he can help you. So a way that he can help you is to hold powers for you, or another way is to create a crossfire with you. So if you're here, you'll see the enemies when they're around this point. So your teammate would like to play a position where he sees the enemy at the same time you see the enemy. So if you can see the enemy there, he wants to play here, so you can both see the enemy at the same time and you can both shoot at him. And he can only check one of the angles, so at least one person is going to get the kill on him. So if the person under powers dies, this guy will get the kill. The last tip I'm going to give you is to jiggle angles instead of statically holding them. So let's say you're in the con player and you're just in here and you want to hold both con and powers, or at least check them. So what you can do is just jiggle like this and like this. And what you can do like this is, when you see somebody, so let's say you jiggle like this, and you see somebody bottom con, they'll probably not hit you. So what you can do is, when you see them, just pick on them with perfect crosshair placement and pre-fire. And in this way, you're almost guaranteed to get the kill because you're instantly shooting and they don't really have that much time to react. And the same thing with powers over there, you can just pick with pre-fire. So that can be an effective thing to use. You can also use it from something like stairs, where you can again jiggle powers and then you can jiggle con and you can kill somebody if they pick you. So that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video, if it helped you, you can leave a like and you can subscribe to my channel to not miss out on any upcoming content. Thank you for watching.